is up, boys and girls? Tonight, we're gonna start tearing into my black 1993 Mazda FD3S RX-7.
It's a Rotary channel again.
It's a Rotary channel again. So stay tuned for lots of Rotary content on the way. Should we make the big announcement now?
I mean, if they clicked on the video and saw the
right.
the thumbnail.
So I sold my white 93 FD because
man,
I don't have time to work on these things any longer. And my black car hasn't been driven in about 3 years, other than just around the neighborhood, because it needs sorting work that I just don't have time these days.
So that wasn't a clickbait title?
It actually wasn't a clickbait title. I really did sell the car. Guess who I sold it to? Not my brother. No, he didn't want that.
Oh, that's right, buddy.
Oh yeah. We haven't shook on it yet, but Quinn and I are coming to an agreement. And after all the years of me badgering him about selling me this car, his idea completely. He brought it up one night.
So I picked this up as a roller in 2011. And it came with an entire driveline, interior, a turbo kit, wheels, coilovers. It has a fresh engine that's the same spec of street ported 13B that I have in my black car, built by my same friend who did the one in my black car. This is just a lot of work. Mm-hmm. It's all there, but it's a lot of work and it's time that I just don't have these days. So this is a 28,000 mile shell. It's an aftermarket white. This was originally a Montego blue car, but the paint cleans up fairly well. There are some scuffs in it from it getting moved around between owners and stuff for years and years.
Happens. Just a couple little things.
Yeah. But anyways, I'm gonna sell it to Matchew.
How could I pass up a deal on a freaking JDM legend?
Because Matchew's my boy, and we've been doing this channel forever.
I'm freaking motivated.
And he has a better chance of getting it together than I do. So, but we're gonna take this time and we're gonna actually get my FD back and properly sorted.
And maybe I can learn a few things about Rotary, because right now, I mean, I have a very vague understanding of the platform, but like,
I'll teach you Padawan.
Not much experience getting my hands dirty with these.
What works out great about this is that I'm gonna have a bunch of spares from my car and things that I can give Matchew along the way, and it gives me motivation to like kind of finish the build on my car and mint it out, because it's like there's a lot of stuff that's already done to this. I already went through the whole underside, did all the bushings, undercoated, painted everything. Mm-hmm. You know,
it looks good. You washed it the other day.
I cleaned it.
That's where all this motivation came from.
Look at how pretty this thing looks with the TEs. Shout out to Tommy FEF for selling me the wheels years ago. But we're gonna start tearing into this, and Matchew's eventually gonna start tearing into the white car. So with that, Matchew, take the camera back.
Yep.
We're gonna talk about.
Let's go over what we're doing.
So here's the thing with the whole aftermarket car tuning thing that kind of turns me off, and it's something that's not like talked about that readily, or that often, I should say, is that there's dark sides to modifying a car quite a bit. And the reason why I haven't been driving this car is because of all those little issues that drive me absolutely insane, especially when you either drive newer cars, which are better sorted and you don't have to modify them nearly as much to be fast like you do the older cars, and especially if you get something like a motorcycle that's just like outrageously fast, then everything feels slow. And even the FD in its last state of tune was at 417 at the wheels, like felt pretty slow to me. So the reason I stopped driving this, last time I drove this car was when we filmed it at Lime Rock for the slip angle.
Yeah, it tore apart that tire. And you had some fuel issues.
And I blew the gasket for the turbo. It's a T4 gasket at the turbo flange. So exhaust manifold flange to the turbo. I had copper gasket in there. I've had history of gasket issues with this car. So let's just like walk through some of the things that like I've gone through. This is a T04S that has a T04E 57 trim compressor housing cover on it. And years ago when the decision was made to put this on, was that it would volumize quicker, that compressor housing, and give better response, i.e. less turbo lag. So the first issue that I encountered in the first 600 miles of this setup running was that I blew the oil seal on the center of the shaft. FDs have very high oil pressure, and what we think happens is that the compressor housing volumizes too much in the outlet, the turbine outlet, which is, this is a full T04S. That one's a 1/4 of an inch smaller that's on there. It volumizes too quickly and it can't push the air out fast enough. And I say this because with an electronic boost controller, can't boost more than 15 PSI. With the wastegate vacuum hose off, can't boost more than 15 PSI. This thing always boosts 15 PSI no matter what. It doesn't matter what we do. We even took the cap off of the wastegate to see like what it would do, like just like on its own, and it still boosted like 12 PSI. So that's very, very frustrating, but what we think happens is that pressure is pushing and pulling on that seal. So I have an upgraded turbo oil seal in there now that Garrett makes. It still smokes a little bit on startup. As the car gets hot, the metal expands and the seal closes better, and it creates a seal. But anyways, that was the first issue. So I had to pull the turbo out for that. I sent the wheels off to be rebalanced and rebuilt. Back in the car, I blew the turbo gasket. I pulled the turbo back out again. I bought stainless steel T4 gaskets. I put them in there. They didn't seal. I took everything back out again. I had the manifold, everything chewed up out of machine shop, and I put another copper gasket in there again because the copper squeezes, it takes up any imperfections in the metal, hoping that it would stay together. Well, at Lime Rock when we filmed it, that blew again. It's a very small leak, but it's enough where I hear the tick with a little bit of load on the engine, and it drives me up a freaking wall. So I bought new gaskets, which were over here somewheres.
They might still be on the couch. I don't know.
These are an MLS gasket. I bought 2 of them, Grimspeed, but they're thick, and there's multi-layers there. So I'm gonna pull this back out again, and I'm gonna put these in here and hope that these stay together. To address the turbo, this is a full-on Garrett T04S cover. This is what this turbo should have came with originally. This is going into the car. I have a billet backing plate for a little bit of weight savings, and I'm hoping to boost more and make use of my Greddy Profect B boost controller that I have in here. And my goal is 440 to 450 at the wheels. I want to boost like 20, 21 PSI at high boost. I'm no longer gonna like track this car. Maybe at Lime Rock's little venue that we do, because that's not as bad on the car. It's just getting to the point where if this gets totaled on track, like I'm not rebuilding it. It's done. So I'm just gonna like kind of treat this as more a classic car. But I do want it quicker in case like my brother with his like 1,000,000 horsepower pickup truck wants to race or something. I still have to be able to beat him slow. So that's happening. Another issue that I had. So this has a Bosch 044 fuel pump in the car. The stock RX-7 fuel tank is 18 or 20 gallons. It's huge. The fuel pickup is on the left side, driver's side of the car. There's a little square dish pan. It actually just kind of looks like a smaller version of this box. There's an open top. The fuel pump sits in that assembly. Well, when I got this car with that in there, if you floored it with under a half a tank of fuel, it would fuel starve the pump and it would start bucking, breaking up like bad. I bought a Hyperion, I think what's the name of the company? It's a fuel baffle that goes over the stock dish pan that's in there, and you strap it down with steel straps, so it kind of like closes that in. That helped it, but I can still starve this pump with 2/3 a tank or less under very hard left-handed corners while flooring it. So there's definitely a fueling issue there because of that setup. That pump sucks a lot of fuel, and when you turn hard, all the fuel goes to the right side of the tank. It's a huge tank. To combat that, I have picked up a Holley fuel mat. And I saw these years ago. This thing's been sitting in a box for ages. But basically, this becomes your new fuel pickup sock. So I'm gonna rip that dish pan thing out completely. Probably gonna have to break it off. But then this is gonna get magneted to the bottom of the tank. And when I watch Holley's demonstration videos, as long as this is touching fuel, you do not starve the pump. Now this is much bigger than the factory fuel pickup sock. So I do have hopes that this is gonna like fix that issue like for good. But it's just another one of those things that makes driving the car like a pain in the ass. And then if I'm gonna drive it like really hard, I have to make sure I have like at least I always have to put a full tank of fuel in it. It's just frustrating to do that. Then there's other things. I put, what do they call fender braces?
Yeah, fender braces. They just connect like the middle of the chassis to the.
I put the triangular fender braces that go to the door jamb or the door brackets that hold the doors to the unibody. Mazda has 3 bolts. 2 that go in, and then 1 that sticks out this way. The one that sticks out this way has nowhere to go but into the body. And these brackets, I should have just drilled them. These brackets didn't have a 3rd hole for that center bolt. I probably bought them from eBay. They're not like, I don't think they were a brand name one.
Oh no.
Anyways, I pushed the bolt in thinking like it would fall down and I'd be able to get it somewhere. No, I have a bolt on each side, inside the unibody, that rattles back and forth when you stop and like accelerate really hard.
So annoying.
You don't hear it that often, but still, like when you're coming to a stop and you just hear like a bolt, like so freaking frustrating, so freaking annoying. But when we do all this work, we're taking the bumper off, we're taking the fenders off. We should be able to get in there. There's access right here. Get in there with a magnet and fish them out. But these are like the things that make a highly modified car that you're asking to do something that it wasn't really meant to do, super frustrating. Not to mention the oil catch can in this. Oil sloshes up my fuel neck when I'm driving hard on track. I have a baffled fuel neck, a stainless one. IRL Performance, I think, makes it. I still fill up my my oil catch can, and it has a hose that just dumps out underneath the car. I mean, like, I think we have a solution. We're gonna reroute that to the back of the engine and have it just pour back into the motor. But it's like all these little like frustrating things that like have to get sorted out on the car. So Matchew and I are gonna start diving into this quickly this summer, or this winter, because I do want to drive this car again this upcoming summer. It's been a long time. I feel like with the motorcycle thing, I fell out of the car thing for a little while, but like there's still that hankering for me that wants to like do car stuff on occasion. Like I think the S2000 kind of reignited that for me. That car performed really well on track. It's kind of slow, like all things considered, so it would be nice to have a faster car. But plus, like the FD is just like absolutely stunning and beautiful. But in the process of doing all this, I'm gonna finish all the things I was gonna do to the white car to make it mint. I'm just gonna kind of do this now. So I have a full black interior conversion. We're gonna be doing that. I want this car quieter inside. So while we have like the carpeting and everything out to switch it over to a black one, I'm gonna start looking at ways to sound deaden the interior. We'll document all that and just like show what we do to try to make this just a more pleasant car to like rip around on the street, because that's really all I'm going to do with it these days. I don't need to put it on like big track stuff and like risk putting it in.
It's not worth it for the big track unless you're like you got the thing insured for like track day insurance.
I'm doing like any real big track stuff, like even the S2000, like that car, like the S2000 I think is great speed for track, but it's like the same thing. It's like if something happens to that, like I'm not doing it all over again.
Yeah.
So there's that struggle. But this will be really cool, especially if Matchew has an FD. It kind of also ignites that desire to get this car back up and running, and we can piggyback off of each other. And
yeah, and I'll learn from the work we do on here, see what I got to do to this thing. I'm like a loss for words. I'm like super excited.
The last thing was that I got to change the diff out in this. I started doing a 4.44 ring and pinion from my old RX-8 diff, but that turned into a nightmare. It needs like shims, and I had that thing apart 3 times already to try to get it correctly. So we have to do that in the process. But if anybody does diffs and is like really confident in your work, please reach out to me. I will gladly send you this diff, and I will pay you handsomely to get it sorted for me. That's all. Do we have anything else we want to talk about, Matchew?
No. Let's get into it.
Let's do it.
Let's get our hands dirty. Quinn's going for the bolt that's stuck in his in the frame. He's fishing. You see anything yet?
It could be. This looks like there's more fucking baffles in here. Oh my word. What's that? There's threads right there for something. Dude, this is just chamber after chamber here. It could be in any one of these things. Well, I was gonna say, can we put a magnet on this thing?
Yeah, that.
Oh, just put a magnet. Yeah, it'll be like a POV.
My Milwaukee one will take a magnet.
We have bolt connected. All right, just don't drop it. Just don't lose it.
How am I supposed to control this?
I don't know.
You just pull slow and hopefully it comes up through the hole. If not, we could sneak it.
It's closer though. You pulled it. You definitely moved it. This is ridiculous.
It's not on here. Oh wait, something's on here. Oh my god, I got it.
You got it?
Got it. Holy shit.
Oh my god!
my god! That's wild.
Now to the next side.
We gotta find the other one. We don't know where the other one is.
I bet it's in the same spot. I bet it's in a very similar
The
spot.
things that irk a Miata owner. I mean, a Mazda owner.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
That's wild.
That's crazy.
Well, that's one.
All right, one
You
down.
got one.
So there's the bolt. Yeah. Move your thingy. See, there you just moved on the top of the screen. There you go.
Oh, there I am.
Yeah.
All right, hold on.
Here you go, buddy. Here's a present.
The real question is why are they two different sizes?
I think it's best to just not think about it.
Is there still a rogue bolt flopping around in that unibody?
We looked around pretty good.
I
in
will
there.
say, like, what I learned tonight, or I shouldn't say learn, it's just I've never thought a unibody was that complex.
Yeah, there were a lot of different channels
There's
and gussets and
channels
yep.
all over the place in there. It's a rat maze, sleep. But we got them. So that's one annoyance hopefully solved on this car. No more rattling bolts when you come to a stop.
That took a while. That we were at that for a good hour.
But
hour and a half.
this is a good jump on, if you look at it,
Yeah.
this is a good jump on everything else that we got to do because I don't want to be working over the fenders to get that turbo out.
Yep.
You could show some of the suspension. I don't know if you guys have seen this or if you remember, but I restored all this. All the arms are professionally painted. Everything's undercoated. I mean, it really took a long time to like do everything underneath here. So what I was talking about before was on the stock brace or the stock flange right here, there's a bolt that protrudes through this way with a nut on the outside. You take that nut off and this brace, when I put this up here, there's not enough clearance in this notch for it. It just pushed the bolt in and I'm like, oh, well, they'll just fall down and I'll get them. They go in the no man's land and they flop around in all these channels and stuff inside the body and they were in two completely different locations. That other one was like way in the back corner where this one was like more in the middle here.
That was crazy.
What a nightmare. I tried asking this question on the phone, like, where do you get access to in here? I mean, everything kind of connects like here and there, but it's just, depending on where it like flopped around, like that's like ultimately where it lands. Wild. So, I guess next week when we pick this up, we're gonna start taking the turbo and everything out to replace that gasket that's blown and then put the new cover on.
Yep, you've also got a pinhole on this lower radiator pipe.
This is a V-mount setup. This was a coil that we welded a elbow in right here years ago. It didn't leak for a while, but I think when I put it on track and like you really stress it and everything's flexing, you know, this is rigid. I think that just helped like develop the crack right there. So we're gonna have to like reinforce this with some more aluminum weld.
Yep.
And then
we also had like a little bit of a clearance issue with your transmission mount.
This aftermarket transmission brace rubs on this flange right here. I think we might get Derek in here to do a V-band connector right here to give us some more clearance. And then
Yeah, it's a matter of pulling the turbo stuff out,
yep.
sorting that out with the new compressor housing.
I think the fuel tank stuff isn't going to be that bad because I've had that sending unit in and out a whole bunch of times for the Bosch. I can't remember why I was in there a while back. I did something. Oh, put that stupid fuel baffle thing in. I put the fuel baffle. I did when I was paying for self-storage. I did it in my self-storage unit.
So honestly, we've got like a couple of days worth of work, I think.
Yeah.
You know,
oh no, I mean,
it's not bad.
This is the bullshit that like people don't talk about when you like modify the fuck out of a car.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like the thing that like I'm kind of on the mindset, kids. Like if you're asking a vehicle to do a lot more than what it was originally intended, like just don't do it.
Yeah.
Go get something else. I mean, it's rewarding, right? But like, ask yourself, when you're on track and you're hauling ass down the front straightaway, and you got to trust that everything that you did is going to stay together, a line isn't going to break off and burst, your brakes are going to work, you're not going to lose a suspension bolt. Like, there's a lot of like variables that you're throwing into the mix, and like, now I'm getting older where I forget shit. Like, you know, just like look at the S2000. We came off track, you know, the strut power, top of the strut power bolts were loose.
Yeah.
Shock.
Yeah. You gotta double check, you gotta triple check everything. You gotta drive it and then do a nut and bolt check. You gotta.
It's just like one of those things. It's like, did I cover all my bases? You know.
I think though, after reading a lot about like the twin turbo setups on this, you kind of have to go with a single.
So that's the thing with the
like that's one of the mods.
This is a car that like they call it the $500 year to death car because it's true, and you can't keep them stock really. The twin turbo setup's horrible. It gets way too hot, cooks the electrical harness. You get all the vacuum leaks and stuff. I mean, it's just a bad.
Super complicated.
Those boost pills to control the boost, like those all fail. And the car's always boosting. So everything, the engine's just like constantly getting hot. At least a bigger single turbo, you can drive the car with lag. And you can cruise it around where it like will cool down. What in tarnation are you doing, Krakow? Oh, you're grabbing our special.
We should have used this when we were fishing this out.
Oh yeah, a little grabby tool.
You could see what the hell you're grabbing.
Well, you had that other thing.
My camera scope needs that.
I don't want to use this. Did you ask people what this is?
It's a butt plug.
Can anybody tell us what this is?
Yeah,
It's got threads on it.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like
It does. I thought it was a Dremel tool.
it's not a Dremel.
So this
tool.
is the one that came out of the other side. Smaller thread.
So like M6 and then what? That's like an M8.
Yeah.
That's so weird.
It's got Loctite on it.
That's why I'm wondering like if there's another rogue bolt like wandering around. Unless
Hopefully
the driver's
there's not
side
one
one
of
is
these.
just
This
bigger.
thing's pretty heavy. It's all metal.
But I didn't hear anything else clanking and clinking around until I put these stupid fender braces on. So
I'm gonna learn from your mistakes, Quinn.
well, this is why this is great, Matchew, because now you're seeing, right? You're seeing a lot of the
Oh
things
yeah,
that-
I'm seeing how the V-mount setup works. I'm getting a better idea in my head of like, you know, where things are going to be positioned and everything.
Should we just explain to the kids at home who don't know what a V-mount is?
Oh yeah.
So for a rotary, something that's very heat temperamental, these get hot when you're
Get
like
real
on
hot,
track.
yeah.
They're beating on them a lot. To put a front mount intercooler in front of your radiator, you restrict a lot of airflow to the radiator. These will overheat. So you do a V-mount setup. Here's my radiator that's on an angle right here, and then here's my intercooler on top.
Yep.
So when air comes into the front bumper channel here, it hits both fins.
Yep.
And we got fans underneath.
Yep. Pushers on the bottom, puller on the top.
Yep. I don't know if it's gonna get in there. I mean, if you notice there, I have twin factory oil coolers that we modified.
With AN lines.
Yeah, this was an automatic car when it was originally born.
So this was a transpooler.
I think that was the trans cooler.
Okay.
We just converted it to an oil cooler.
That's pretty cool. I wonder.
Only the R1 came with dual oil coolers, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Base and touring got just one cooler, and if it was an auto, it got a second cooler for the tranny. So, yeah, let's hope that I can rekindle my love for the FD, because this is my favorite car after all. It is the most beautiful car ever made, as far as I'm concerned.
It's the nicest Japanese
For
car ever
1993, well, 1992 in Japan, like there was nothing with lines like this car. Not even, I mean, like even if you put this next to the NSX, the lines on this are so much more slippery and smooth. The NSX just like has that like 80s styling that carried over into the 90s.
which has its own nice character to it.
But don't get me wrong, I still like sweat an NSX, but I'm never buying one for what they cost now. Like I just don't think they're worth it. Beautiful cars though.
Mm-hmm.
Anyhow, that's it for this one.
More-
Stay tuned for more Rotary. Matchew and I are going to be Rotary brothers now. And once the weather warms up, we'll tune Project Exoset and get that thing on the road and do a whole bunch of hoonage and other fun stuff.
You know what I want to do to this thing?
What?
I want to do what Larry Chen does to his Supra and hook up a camera rig right to the front of that nose cone and then chase people while they either slide around on the Lime Rock short track or.
I mean, I think that's got to be the official slip angle car.
Yeah.
It's got the colors.
Yep.
So we'll do something like that for it for sure.
Yeah.
All right, that's it for this one, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Till next time, done.